Hello everyone, welcome to another Starcraft 2 video. For this one we're doing another build order tutorial. For this one it's going to be TvZ build order into Mass Raven when you're using a map that has a pocket expansion. Well, that's an easy to defend base. That's either in the back of your main or behind your natural. We need to add a player here. Yeah, so for this particular season we're looking at Backwater LE and Neo Violet Square. There is a new season coming up very soon though, and I'm not sure what's on that map, but almost every map pool has a pocket expansion map, at least one. So I'm going to show this on Backwater LE, just because on Neo Violet Square it's very simple, but on this map there's very specific structure placement. Just because you need to block this off, otherwise Zerglings can run by and attack here. That's the pocket expand. If the pocket expand were in the back of the main base, like over here, you wouldn't have to worry about that. But since the map has like the run by ability, you need to block all this off. Taking this gas geyser actually blocks this route. It's kind of weird. You can run through here, but when you take the Vespene, you can't. Then you gotta block this, and you gotta block that. If you have all those three spots blocked, then he has to run by the planetary and take a whole bunch of hits if he's going to do run by. So, hope I have this build in my head properly. We are going to start right away by building SCV and sending out an SCV right away.
Not enough.
Now the way this works is we don't need the factory, we don't need a Banshee or a siege tank to establish our extra bases. So, oops. All right, let's just start this again. Already messed up. So for that reason, you don't need gas for anything besides the planetary at the beginning. And because of that, you can get a lot of things a lot quicker. Including the engineering bay block, which means we're going to send out the SCV right at the start of the game.
Not enough minerals. Not enough
and
minerals.
we throw down the depot.
Not enough minerals.
Since SCV on the depot, we're going to queue him up to the gas geyser. We'll have him take the gas when he arrives.
Additional
I'm going to throw down engine bay block. Now we can go straight into the gas.
Not enough minerals. Not enough minerals.
I'm watching for drones and whatnot. Head home. We're going to go to 16 of 16, and then maybe we'll put 2 in gas. No, we'll go to 16 of 16, and then we'll put people in gas from that point forward. Yeah, maybe 2 in gas is a good idea. Basically, you just want 150 gas by the time you start your command center. Or by the time you start your planetary. I'm kind of late on this command center. Should have been down 100 minerals ago. And then we're going to go ahead and build the barracks. It also is 70 minerals late. Not my best executed build. And then the engineering bay. We can finish populating this gas now. We're at 16 of 16. And then for the very last SCV, we're actually going to send them to our third to build the next command center. As soon as this barracks is done, we're going to build an orbital and a marine. But not the factory, because we don't need that. Orbital,
Not enough
marine.
minerals required.
This will probably be cancelled by now. And the planetary. You can take this gas geyser here.
Command center upgrade complete.
And we're going to, once we get 100 gas, build the factory at our natural.
Command center
Populate this
upgrade
gas.
complete.
And that is more or less the opener. Now, the expansion at our third, we're going to turn into an orbital, so we get some extra mineral income. Now, in this particular map, you can actually go for a really fast fourth base on top of this. And that's it's because we can expand with a siege tank on the high ground here to defend a fourth at the low ground there. This is what we're going to be doing. So, command center. Depot. See, that's totally
Not
walled off
enough
now.
Minerals.
Go orbital. When this finishes, we're going to build a factory. And I can build a starport here as well.
Command center upgrade complete.
And build that
Add-on
siege tank as soon as it finishes.
Not enough minerals.
We can also take all of our gas geysers now. Again, much like in my previous
Not enough minerals.
tutorial for my standard TvZ opener, which uses the Banshee. How fast you get missile turrets and how fast you take your gas is kind of dependent on how much you're worried about mutalisks. So there's that siege tank. Swap this over. I'll just bring it back to our main, I guess.
Not enough energy.
So from this point forward, I mean, you may want like at least one missile turret at each base. Just, the Viking, clear out overlords.
Command center upgrade complete.
We can add on to our production now. I want to go to 4 starports. Start the engineering bay upgrades.
Add-on complete.
I think going all 8 gas geysers is probably too greedy.
Mineral field depleted.
This can go overlord hunting. I don't turrets at this point. Probably more over here.
Not enough minerals. Not enough minerals. Not enough energy. Not enough minerals.
Maybe a good time to take gas geysers now. And maybe finish our
Add-on complete. Research complete. Add-on complete.
our production, which is going to be 2 more armories and 2 more factories.
Not enough minerals.
Gonna be supply capped in 1 second. Or supply blocked. Couple turrets here.
Additional supply. Not enough energy.
We add on a couple sensor towers. those upgrades going. Command center.
Not enough minerals. Not enough minerals.
Blue flame. And there you have it. That more or less is the build. The Raven's going. Hellion's going.
Complete. Not enough minerals.
Command centers and leftover minerals.
Not enough minerals. Not enough energy. Not enough.
So once again, you might want to build some siege tanks if you're up against a big Hydra composition, depending on the map. And
insufficient Vespine gas.
yeah. That
Not
is
enough
the
minerals.
pocket third base variants of this build. So upgrades going, Hellion's going, Raven's going. Perfect. So let's go over the build again and we can talk about the various things we may face and how well this build holds, as well as going over the build one more time. So we restarted, right? Alright, so we go again. Sent out an SCV right at the start of the game. This build is building an SCV, and first completed SCV is going to create the depot. So we kind of want as much mineral intake as possible, and only enough gas to have 150 by the time this command center finishes. Now putting 3 on gas, the third SCV isn't as efficient as the first two, so it'd be nice to get there in a way where you just put 2 on gas. So I think the depot SCV is starting gas right away. And then populating all your minerals and completing this to 3. Might be the way to go. You may have to put 2 in there for a while. I'm not 100% sure. If you can't start your planetary when your command center finishes, and you need more gas. If you have like 250 gas when your command center finishes, then you have too much gas. But ideally you want as much minerals as possible because we will be taking a really fast third. So again, throwing down your command center now, which I did late. And then the barracks right now, which I also did late. It's important to get both those down as soon as you can without cutting workers. And then the engine bay afterwards, obviously. Finishes the wall, allows you to upgrade to planetary. And then once, with your very last worker before you hit the supply block, you can see we're at 16 of 16. We're at 3 of 3. So he's the one who can go take your third base. Once the barracks finishes, you're going to go orbital and marine. You're not going to build the factory like we normally do. Not with this build. Factory is going to be delayed. So again, if Zerglings were going to arrive, they'd be arriving now. That's assuming he sees the blocked 15 hatch and then builds a pool, or even like a 14 pool opener. Would work out fine as well. One thing is if he was planning it all in from the start and goes a very early pull, then you got to adjust your build. But you get an indication of that when you're building your engineering bay here. When you don't see an overlord come over and you don't see a drone come down attempts to make a hatchery, then you know something's up. So get this engineering bay to about halfway. If you haven't seen anything, go straight into his main and check to see his pool timing. If the pool is like 2/3 done, don't even attempt to do a command center on the low ground. Yeah, so it was orbital and marine. As soon as this finishes, you start the planetary. And then you can take the gas geyser. Now there might be links on the low ground, so I did worker transfer here. You probably don't want to do it that early. Wait till this PF is almost done. But what you can do with this worker that's on the low ground is as soon as you hit 100 gas, take them off. Take them off of this refinery. You don't have to finish the refinery. It's not important. It's just mostly to block this thing. What you do need is a factory at 100 gas. When you hit 100 gas, put a factory in here. And already you got this much of a wall set up. Around now is the time you should be transferring workers to the low ground. Also bring the barracks to the low ground. Double depot. Now, since we went for this base, which we'll be making an orbital right away, we're going to be not as close to the starport if Roach Ravager arrives. It'll be about now that Roach Ravager would arrive. And on this particular map, the ramp is wide open, even if those barracks were properly on the low ground. Although on this map, I think keeping the barracks on the high ground is a good idea. Just because the low ground barracks won't help anyways. Yeah, so if we went Roach Ravager, it would be arriving now. And unlike with our previous build, we don't have a Banshee on the way. So you might think, oh, we're in a lot of trouble. Because he's just going to walk right into my main base. I have one Marine to defend. We're dead. But you're not. You're actually still ahead. Because when he comes in here, you can cancel this command center. You can kill this depot and this engineering bay. You can kill this refinery, but the orbital and the barracks can lift off. The SAVs can flee. We have this base completed to the north, so they can just flee right up to the north. Try to dodge any bile he tries to land on these, but for the most part, you'll probably only lose 4 to 8 workers, which isn't that big a deal against Nullin. And instead of building the siege tank from this factory to bring up here, we're going to build a starport right away as soon as we see Roach Ravager and swap the starport onto this tech lab. So we'll still get the Banshee out because the Banshee is safely behind this planetary, or the starport's safely tucked behind this planetary. And only work he can do is what I just mentioned in here. He can kill a gas geyser, a depot, an engineering bay, and a handful of workers. Meanwhile, you're still fully saturated because you have these 2 bases. You have a Banshee coming to shoo him away, and you have 3 completed command centers. 2 of them are orbitals. So we're still in a good spot against that all-in.
Command center upgrade complete. Add-on.
But I digress. If he doesn't do that, you're just going to build a factory, make a siege tank. On this particular map, maybe even make 2 to get this 4th base. Neo-Violet Square, you can't take a 4th base like this, so for other pocket expansion builds, it's not as relevant. This is a very specific to this map. If there were another pocket expansion map, what I would do is just go straight to 6 gas geysers, get your production, get what missile turrets you need, and start massing ravens. And 6 very early gas can get you a lot of ravens, and then use that raven flock to establish your 4th and 5th base. But this map just has a very easy to take 4th as well, so why not? Another siege tank over here is pretty good too. And siege tanks can always be moved to forward bases later in the game, even if just to sacrifice them. And that is more or less the build, right?
Command center upgrade complete.
Missile turrets, engineering bay upgrades, go up to 4 starports, 3 factories, 2 2 armories. Start your double upgrades for ground mech, so it helps your Hellbats and your Raven armor. And yeah, that's 8 gas Raven. Build command centers as you need, and that's about it. So this is my variants I do on these sorts of maps. Quite strong. In both this build and the standard build, I like the fact that you go straight to starport, or have the option to go straight to starport against Roach Ravager, because Roach Ravager is so much more threatening now than Bailing Bus. Bailing Bus isn't that big of a deal. Drop tech is on layer, so really like the only major threat is Roach Ravager prior to layer tech. On layer tech, there's lots of ways you can die. Just the tempo of hydras as you're building a raven flock can become too much. Nidus worms, the fact that they're invulnerable now can be a bit of an issue, even if you have a couple ravens out by that point. He can even be greedier than you. Take it to the late game with an economy victory. But he can't be that much greedier than you because we're pretty greedy ourselves. I think the thing that will give you the most trouble, TvZ, is just the tempo of hydras. Hydra Ling, Hydra Roach, Hydra Roach Ravager, Hydra Ling Bane, but the main ingredients being Hydralisk and all those compositions. Maybe he'll even add in Vipers later just for, mostly for Blinding Cloud, but if he's smart, he might figure out that, oh, those can Parasitic Bomb as well. But yeah. In the late game, Hydras are no issue at all. They're just fodder to your Raven energy with the anti-armor missile. But he may prevent you from getting to the late game. The key against Hydras, when you're facing that many, is it could be looking disastrous, but if you never lose your Ravens, it can slowly turn around. Like, say you try to take this 5th, and then the Hydra aggression starts, and he smashes through this 5th, and he smashes through this space here, and maybe he even comes and kills your natural before you can finally shoo him away. So you have to retake your natural. You're like building a command center to get back to 3 bases. Well, he's rebuilding his armory on like 6 bases. But your Raven Cloud's never shrinking, right? You know, you had like 15 Ravens, then you get 20 Ravens and 25 Ravens. And then maybe on your 3rd attempt to retake this base, you just completely murder his army because you have so many Ravens. And then that's like the turning point. And a lot of these tempo builds, they neglect their upgrades, and they don't even have hive tech on the mind or any experience in the hive tech world. Like, the thought of using swarm hosts and vipers and infestors and having really good creep spread with stack defense, like that. A lot of Zergs that are doing the tempo hydra stuff, you don't have to worry about that sort of thing. So if you can get over that crest where your Ravens all survive, then yeah, you can survive that. This is supposed to be a build order tutorial, but I'm talking about a whole bunch of nonsense. Anyways, for that reason, that's why I suggest only using anti-armor missile versus Hydras, and not so much the auto turrets, because as you're laying auto turrets, you're going to be losing Ravens. And if you're losing Ravens, there is no victory. If he's doing the same sort of tempo idea and crushing bases with, say, Roaches and Ravagers, then you can come in and lay down tons of auto turrets, because you're not at threat of losing all your Ravens to that. And I think auto turrets are much better. Unless you have enough Ravens to completely murder the army with anti-armor missile, which you won't in the mid-game. Auto turrets will do a better job, more efficient on the energy, get more damage done, more likely to save a base. Because auto turrets deal damage and tank damage for a lower energy cost. But I digress. Back to the build. Yeah, not much else to talk about. Remember, I guess a lot of what I showed here with the factory into siege tank with the 4th command center, that's very specific to this map. What I would do instead is, after you throw down this 3rd command center, take all your gas geysers. Really power up on these 6 gas. Get that gas bank going. And only after you take those 6 gas geysers should you start building production and missile turrets. Yeah. Because the earlier you take those 6 gas, the more Ravens you'll have. And the more Ravens you have, the more easily it'll be to take a more difficult 4th base if you have the Raven count. So with that, we'll call it the end of this video. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Once again, look for games which take place on this map or on Neo Violet Square TvZ on my YouTube channel, and you'll see examples of this build being used. And I'll also add a link to my replays, which are all available online. And you can just find TvZs on any map that has a pocket expansion, and you can see what I do there. Yeah, so with that, I'm out of here. Goodbye.